First thing I want to do is talk about the 4% rule, and we all know that that no longer works, but I thought I'd give you a little bit of information on why that is no longer valid. So, oops, here we go. Went too far there. Okay, this is actually a great chart showing that terminal inflation-adjusted wealth after 30 years. So if you started with 100,000, see the straight line there? Start with 100,000. Where would you have been 30 years later? And you can see that sometimes you would have been, I mean, way back when, if you start with 100,000, you would have been at $600,000 back in 1871, 30 years later. So, I mean, there's obviously that was looks like a little bit of an anomaly there. But then we go further. You can see during the early 1900s, that would not have worked out well for you. And then you see up and down, up and up, down, up and down. But unfortunately, what we see is over the last 30 or 40 years, we would have done really well with that 4% rule. And that's what the problem is. Now, you see it stopped in 1985 because that's where the 30 years, you know, they're going out 30 years, so they don't have that data. But you know what's going to happen here very rapidly. Well, I got to get my questions going here. Sorry about that. So what's going to happen with this graph here as it moves into the next 30-year period? See if I can get some answers to that. What's going to happen to that graph? How much down? Michael, you're right, down. How much down? A lot. Exactly. This thing's going to fall right off a cliff because of 2000 and 2008. So what it's like any rule in the financial market isn't a rule. Why is any rule in the financial market not a rule? You know, I talk about this a lot. From 1865 to 1965, interest rates never went below 5%. So that was a rule. Interest rates can't go below 5%. And then what happened? Yeah, Carlos, because they can be broken. Why? Why? You're absolutely right, Carlos. Why are rules always broken in the financial markets? Why are rules always broken in the financial markets? Based on past data, I don't agree with that. Here's the thing. How many variables are there in the financial markets? How many variables are there in the financial markets? How many variables? Yeah, like millions of variables. We've talked about this before. We said, hey, China could bring down the marketplace. How many variables are there just with China? China could bring us down because of their real estate bubble, because of their debt bubble, because of they get into a war with any number of countries, because of a political problem, because of, I mean, just a bazillion. I mean, there's a gazillion reasons why, or variables that can cause things to cause problems. And also, that's the one thing. The second reason is, what is everybody always looking for? An edge. So how long do those edges last? So anytime a rule takes place, somebody's looking to beat that rule, and then it's broken. So that, I mean, this is a good indication of that. So the 4%, the other reason that 4% rule no longer exists is because it was popularized in 1994. And in 1994, 10-year Treasury yields were almost 8%. And remember, we'd gone through a long 30-year period of interest rates being high at that point. Today, they're barely 2%. So when you look at that 4% rule, it's not going to work. In fact, the likely failure rate for the portfolio with today's bond rates is 57%. That's failure rate, not success rate. Failure rate. So 4% is dead and buried, and that's why what we do. Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot to bring up this point. And stocks perform as well as they have with a 10% average return. So that's if stocks perform as well as they did with a 10% return. What's the likelihood of stocks averaging 10% going forward? High or low? High or low, guys? And we don't know for sure, but a low chance. So that means this 57% is actually probably a higher failure rate. So using the 4% rule, but the 50-50 works. Why? Because on the guaranteed side, you get a higher rate of return and that guarantee. So that's that 50% rule works. Now I want to bring up something here. In every single periodical, what are we seeing? DOL this, DOL that, DOL this, DOL that. And what are they all trying to predict? What are they all trying to predict? I've got the future, the end of assurance. The thing, guys, is that, first of all, even if they didn't change any rules of the DOL, if you know anything about the DOL, how vague was it? How vague was it? Extremely vague. So guess what, then over the next 18 months, because that's how long it's going to be before this thing is actually in stone, how many changes are going to occur then over the next 18 months? Because they're not going to leave a vague rule out there. So how many changes are going to occur over the next 18 months as they start solidifying these vague things? Yeah, I got total reconstruction, many, it may even go away. The thing is, then we add on what happened last week. 2 major lawsuits, both with very good legs to stand on. Here's my thoughts. You don't want to be an idiot and ignore the DOL, but if I'm going to lean towards worrying about what the DOL is doing today, and how it's going to affect my business 18 months in the future, or writing business today, where am I going to lean? And I tell you what, I mean, here's where I see the winners versus the losers in this industry. The winners versus the losers in this industry. You got it right, Mark. You just write business. I don't know if Jeff is on, but he's a guy too that just put his head down, and with everything going on around his particular business, he's just writing a business. One of our Jeffs on the system. So the thing is guys, why are all these industry journals writing about the DOL? That's right, Jeff, Dan the torpedoes, and that's what I was talking about. You put your head down, you just do it, and that's awesome. So why are all these journals, ink, Jerry, sensationalism, yes, that's all it is. So right now, guys, don't worry about it. Worry about your business, because all the stuff that's being written is just, at this point, garbage, because we have no clue what's going to happen 18 months. What can happen in 18 months, guys? First of all, what happens here by the end of the year? What happens by the end of the year? An election, right, Mark? And that could change this, or a little or a lot. That could kill the DOL rule. So there's all sorts of things. So hey, there's a lot of people planning for this in the back rooms, including us. But even myself, I know how to deal with it when it comes, but I'm not worrying about it right now, because whatever I would do to plan for right now, I'd have to redo 18 months down the road, because it's going to change. So guys, just pay attention to what you're paying attention to. You know what? And there's a lot of smart guys doing that. You know what? I want to know proof of that. What do you think the proof of that? There's a lot of smart guys ignoring this whole DOL thing. What do you think the best proof of that is? Nobody's coming up with it. Well, I'll give you the proof then. Oops. This. What's happened to indexed annuity sales over the last 2 quarters? What's happened to the indexed annuity sales over the last 2 quarters? Yeah, they're just writing business, Jonathan. They're just writing business. So ignore it. So please just, I know there's a lot of stuff in there. Just ignore it. It's not going to happen for 18 months, and there's going to be a lot of changes. Then when they make those final changes and the ink is dried, then let's adjust, okay? Because what we want to do is what we teach you with the 5Q system is the Zen of business, which means you should only be paying attention to how many things. How many things should you be paying attention to? 1. The thing you're doing right. Now, even within the 21-point checklist, we tell you, listen, dude, the only thing you should be paying attention to is the thing you're presenting right then. You shouldn't be even worried about the next thing you're going to present 10 minutes from now. You certainly shouldn't be thinking about what you're going to do with their money or anything like that. The only thing you should be paying attention to is what you're doing right now, and that goes with everything that's going on around us as well. No, so I'm going to pick on you a little bit, Mark. Mark said what we should be paying attention to is the end goal. And that's where a lot of us have been trained that way. So I just want to talk, because Mark said that, because Mark's a really smart guy. So I want to talk about that. Some other guys are probably thinking that. If I'm in it's the 2-minute rule, and I'm thinking I got to score a touchdown, I got to score a touchdown, I got to score a touchdown, I got to score, or we're out of this season. If I don't score a touchdown, we're out of the season. We got to win. We got to win. We got to win. What am I going to do when I take the hike? If I'm worrying about winning, what am I going to do when I take the hike? Somebody. If I'm worrying about, well, Craig, you're right. I'm going to fumble. That's right. When I'm sitting behind the center, I should be thinking about one thing, which is what? To take a clean snap. Then the next thing I should be thinking about is looking for a open receiver. Then I should only be looking at one thing at a time. So you're right, Mark. Yeah, the 21 focus to get to the end goal. So if I do, I don't have to worry about winning. See, I don't need to worry about winning. I don't need to worry in a football game. I don't need to worry about what I'm going to do with their money when I'm doing the 21-point checklist. Because if I do what I'm doing right now, right, what's going to happen? If I do what I'm doing right now, right, what's going to happen? I'm going to win. If I do what I'm doing right now in a football game, if I keep doing that every moment I'm playing, I do what I'm doing at that moment right, I'm going to win the game. Same thing with the 21. If I do everything right that I'm doing right now, and a minute from now, and 2 minutes from now, and I do what I'm doing 3 minutes from now right, and see, if I do everything right, what I'm doing right now, every single minute I'm doing the system, I don't need to worry about winning. I'm always going to win. Make sense?
Can I jump in there for
a minute? How many clients? Oh, yeah, please, Jeff.
You guys know that it's hard because here's the thing. When you watch, if you ever hear a professional athlete, they always say the best cornerbacks are the ones that can put that botched play behind them. So you give up a touchdown, and then the best cornerbacks, they say, well, they can shake it off. The best quarterbacks are the ones that can throw an interception and shake it off. The best running backs are the ones that can fumble and shake it off. It's not that they don't care and that they don't, it doesn't bother them or that they're able to put it behind them somehow. It's that they just are good at focusing on the next play. They're like, whatever happened, happened, but I got to be good now. I got to be good at this right here, right now. And that's all they're thinking about. It's not that they forget and they don't care or that they have some ability that we don't have to forget things. It's that they just have an ability that we're trying to hone, which is to just focus on the here and now. Let's just do what I got to do right here, right now, and they won't catch another pass. And if they don't catch another pass, they won't win. Or the quarterback, if I just focus right here, right now on what I have to do, I won't throw another interception. And if I don't throw another interception, we're going to score enough points to win. So you just have to focus on what you're doing now. If there's any basketball fans out there, if you watched the basketball game last night, it was a blowout. And it's interesting because if you ever listen to this show, Mike and Mike in the Morning, a professional athlete, John Sally, who's now a commentator on basketball, said, you know why Cleveland's not going to win? Because every time they make a mistake, you can just see them looking at each other and getting frustrated and thinking, why is all of this happening? Whereas Golden State, they make mistakes too. They made as many mistakes as the Cavaliers last night, statistically. Only when they make a mistake, they're like, you know what, we got to make a stop. We just got to make a stop. We can't worry about that. We'll worry about that later. We got to make a stop right now. We have to focus on right now. And that's why they won by 33 points last night, because they're able to focus on the here and now, and their opponent isn't. And that's what you guys have to do. Just focus on the here and now, and you'll have so much more success.
Perfect. Awesome. Thanks, Jeff. I'm going to pick your brain here in a second too, Jeff, because how many clients should have done a 21 or have done a 21? How many clients should have 21 light done? If anybody knows what I'm talking about there, please help clarify for me. Basically, I'm asking how many clients needed 21 done on them? All of them. Okay, good, great. So here's the thing, and Jerry at ECA asked you this. Jeff Van Grinsven's asked you this. I asked you this. Missy asked you this. Jeff asked you this. And Jeff, the only thing I've heard for the last 6 years, except when somebody first comes on or first talking to somebody, but once they've been on for 2 or 3 weeks at the most, every person I talk to says everybody should have a 21 done on them. How about you, Jeff? Do you get a lot of people saying that 21 shouldn't be done on people?
No, everybody agrees that the 21 light is a great thing to do for people.
And even, how about the 21 on new people? How many of our guys say that 21 should be done?
Everybody.
Everybody. And yet, I don't know about you, Jeff, but the most frustrating call, and I got 2 of these last week, are these calls. Hey, Mike, first of all, Jeff and I both love, I'm not going to speak for Jeff, Jeff can talk for himself, but I love, one of the funnest parts of my job is helping somebody close a deal that they're losing, or closing a deal that they thought that they lost, and helping them bring that person back in and close that deal. That's the most fun I have. It's like that's proof of the value I can bring. When I take somebody you think is lost, $1.2 million, and you think it's lost, and then have it close 2 weeks later because of the advice that I gave you and the things that I told you should say. That's the funnest part of my job. The most frustrating part of my job is when somebody calls and says, hey, Mike, can you help me fix this? And I say, well, great. Well, what happened at the 21? And guess what they say? Well, I didn't do a 21. Well, guys, if you come to me and ask me to help you fix something and you didn't follow the system, what am I going to tell you? What am I going to tell you? If you come to me and say, hey, help me get this person back in, I didn't do the 21 with them, what am I going to tell you? That's right, John. I'm just saying follow, everybody's getting, just follow the system, but this guy is what? Gonzo. Because if all you're going to do is show them a product, guess what? If all you're going to do is show them a product, now you're playing the game with a whole bunch of other advisors. If they're asking you what they should do with the money, I guarantee you they're asking somebody else. And he who lies most wins. And I know almost all of you guys I've talked to, I mean, you're very ethical people. You're very ethical people, so you're not going to be the ones that lie. So if you're not the ones lying, then what's going to happen to that business? If all you're doing is selling product and showing product and slinging product, and you're in it with somebody else, who's going to win that business? Because you're not going to lie, but I guarantee you somebody else. When you say I can make you 5%, what's that other person going to say? When you say I can make you 5%, well, what's that other person going to say? Yeah, I can make you 6, right, John? If you say 6, he's going to say 7. So if you get into this thing about a product, that's where you're going to have the problems. Then you call up Jeff or myself and say, hey, can you help me fix this? I know I didn't do the 21, but how can I get this guy in? And what do we say, Jeff?
Yeah, if there was a way to do that, we wouldn't have. If there was a way to do that, we would have just gotten rid of the 21 and said, let's just do that. Let's just make it a 2-meeting process instead of a 3. It's as short as it can be and still work. The thing I see the most, and here's the thing that's frustrating to me, I think, and this is, it's really, in a way, it's heartbreaking, quite frankly. It's somebody who says, I'm meeting with somebody with $1.2 million. This is a big case. I usually don't see these kinds of cases. Can you help me out? And we always say, yeah, well, I mean, great. We love these cases too. Let's do it. So let's go ahead and enter the information into the 21-point checklist, and let's see what it spits out. Okay, but you're going to have to help me because I've never done one of these before. Oh my God, what do you mean you've never done one of these before? Well, I mean, I've done parts of it before, but this is my first real one. And it's discouraging for me because it's like, wow, you've been with us a year, and you've said that you're going to do this with all of your clients, and you said it was important to do not only for them but for yourself, and now you want us to help you. And it's not that I don't want to, but what I'm thinking is, what you're telling me is, I'm playing my first professional football game tomorrow and I'm playing the defending Super Bowl champs. Can you give me some pointers? I can give you some pointers, but I'm just going to tell you it's going to be rough. It would have been better if all along, for the whole year that you'd been with us, you'd been doing these with the easy people, getting some experience under your belt, not having to learn 21 scripts over. When is the meeting? It's Thursday. This Thursday? This Thursday. Oh man, you have to learn 20, what? In 2 days? I mean, I'll help you,
well,
and I'll try.
Yeah. And the problem is that Jeff and I and Missy and Jerry and JV at EC have been asking you, are you doing 21s, are you doing 21s, are you doing 21s? And you say what? Yes. But then when rubber meets the road and Jeff asks you this, then you confess. So I don't get it. Guys, or Missy, are you on the call, Missy?
Yep, I sure am.
How many 21s did I do when I made the 386, the 667, 967? How many 21s did I do for people?
Every single person had a 21.
Did I ever come in and say, Missy, do you think I should do one on this one or not?
Nope, it was just a machine. That's just the process we used.
I even, for people who had no money, did I do a 21? I did them, yes, I did all the non-financial, boom, 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 right there at that meeting and sent them home with it. Everybody who walked in my office left with the 21 in one shape, form, or manner. Guess why I'm awesome at the 21, guys? Why? Come on, somebody answer. I did it 1,000 times, right, Jonathan? Right, Mike? I did it over and over and over. I did it on everybody. Any chance I had to do one, I did one. Make sense? So please, 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 especially with what we have coming out, rolling out here, just for marketing-wise, just do 21s on everybody, okay? So next thing, top 3 Donald Trump messaging techniques. Now, I don't know if this is good or bad, but can we all admit, whether you like Trump or don't like Trump, how successful has he been in messaging over the last year? Whether you like him or not, how great has he been in messaging? So I don't know what this says. Everybody's saying masterful, very successful, great. So I don't know what this says about us, but here's the 3 top reasons Trump messaging has been so excellent. Number 1, doesn't get bogged down in facts and figures. What do I tell you about spreadsheets? What do I tell you about hypotheticals? What do I tell you about numbers? What do I tell you about going into detail in the products? What do I tell you? That's right, Kevin. No one cares. The more you get bogged down in facts and figures, the more the likelihood the client is going to be lost. Now, here's the sad thing. When you do that, what does the client tell you, though? When you say, do you see this column of figures here? Do you see this number here? Do you see why it's better? What does the client always say? Yep, 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 yeah, 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 yep, 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 which means what? Which means what? It means nothing. It means I don't know what the heck you're talking about. Guys, even, I've told you, I mean, I scored a perfect score on math in the SAT. I get numbers. I was in the nuclear program in the Navy. I get numbers. I'm analytical off the charts if you look at my psychological profile. But when JV or Jerry or Missy, you can even, Missy, when you start going over numbers with me, what happens to me?
Your eyes glaze over and you check out.
And I just say, give me the bottom line.
Right.
And I'm way smarter when it comes to these things than your clients are, guys. And I'm bored. Just give me the bottom line. I know that you're excited about the features. I know you're excited about the illustration. But here's the thing. Can you prove anything to anybody? Can you prove anything to anybody? That's what you're trying to do. When you're going through illustrations and you're going through spreadsheets, you're trying to prove things to them. You cannot prove anything to them. And we all know, when I ask you this question, should you sell emotionally or intellectually? What should you sell? Everybody gets it right, emotionally. And then you whip out the what? Whip out the spreadsheets, whip out the hypotheticals, and go back to proof, proof, proof. See, proof is about what? Is proof, I want everybody to answer this, is proof about the emotional or is it about the intellectual? Yeah, Mark, you hit it on the head. It's a buzzkill. It's all, the proof is about the intellectual. That's great that you believe in it. If the proof makes you believe in your product, awesome. That is awesome. Just don't use that to try to convince a client, because clients buy based on stories, on the emotional, not about facts and figures. I mean, have you heard Trump give us one factor figure yet? Has there been one factor figure that he's given us? We're going to be huge. I'm going to make them pay for the wall. We're going to do this and we're going to do that. There hasn't been one single factor figure given yet, and people are what? Eating it up. Okay, what's the second thing? Keep it simple. I'm going to build a wall. Well, how are you going to do that? I'm going to make Mexico pay. Well, how are you going to do that? I've got ideas. I know how I'm going to do it. Guys, can you make it any more simple than that? So a lot of times, and Jeff, can you hop in here? A lot of times when we're showing how bonds work in our script about bonds, or when we're showing how the product works, guys say, well, that isn't exactly how it works. What do you tell them, Jeff?
Well, it is how it works. I mean, it might not be exactly, but that's the underlying idea. It's a way of communicating to them that they can understand how it works. It's kind of like, you know, we tell the story about the attorneys, and so trial attorneys, they have a lot in common with us in the sense that they have to ask questions of witnesses so that the jury can get the information. They can't just stand in front of the jury and tell them how it is. They can't preach to the jury. And so when they call these witnesses, a lot of times when it's a big case, millions of dollars are at stake, they're going to call experts. And what's happened over the years is the prosecution will call one expert that says one thing, and the defense will call a completely different expert that will say the complete opposite. And then the jury has to decide, well, which expert do I believe? They don't believe the one that has the most knowledge or the most degrees or the most credentials. They believe the one that can keep it simple and tell it in terms that they can understand. So you would think, well, it's the expert from Harvard that they're going to believe. They're not going to believe somebody from the University of Kansas over somebody from Harvard. But it turns out if the guy from Kansas can explain it better, not better, in terms that they can understand, and the guy from Harvard is just too complicated and just over their head, they vote with the guy with the degree from the University of Kansas. It's why country attorneys have so much success. You know, the old kind of stereotype we have of the down-home southern country attorney, he has so much success because he can explain it in a way that the jury understands. That's why they go with him.
How about if the glove don't fit, you gotta what?
Quit.
Guys, how much more simple, right or wrong, how much simpler could you do it? And that really is the phrase that a lot of people credit for OJ getting off. So how simple is that? With all the facts and figures and bloodstains and blah, 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 if the glove don't fit, you got to acquit. That's about as simple as you can get. And keep it emotional. So do you see all the things? One, two, three. Don't get bogged down in facts and figures. Keep it simple. Keep it emotional. What do we do at 5Q? What do we teach you to do? This. All of our stories, all of the things that we do, it's all boils down to all three of these things. Does it take longer? Sure. But does it work? Absolutely. Make sense? Okay, so next week we're going to be rolling out the new marketing. So make sure you're on the call, and please, guys, you guys are the choir, so I'm going to sing to the choir here for a second. In order to participate in that marketing, that means you're going to be held accountable. So you're going to be held accountable for being on these calls. You're going to be held accountable for being on the Friday calls. If you're not on these calls, that's fine, but we can track now whether you go back to re-listen them. And I want everybody to answer this. If you are not on a Monday or Friday call, how many days do you have to watch that replay? Everybody should answer this. How many days do you have to go back to watch that replay? And all sorts of answers here. The right answer is you have 7 days. You better have watched that replay prior to the next one. And when I'm talking to you, or Jeff's talking to you, we're going to ask you if you were on that call. And then we're going to ask you on if you say no, I'm going to go back and re-listen to it. I'm going to ask you if you were on the previous week's call, and I'm going to ask you to prove it. And if you can't, guess what? What's going to happen to that marketing? I'll take it away. I'm only going to give the marketing to the people who are going to be following our coaching. And why do you think that? Why am I going to only give this marketing to people who follow our coaching, who return our calls, who send in tapes? Why am I only going to give the marketing to those people? How do you prove what, John? John's asking, how do you prove you're on the call? Guys, we know whether you're on the call or not. We track, we can see if you go back in and review the call or not. That's how we know. So I guess you could fool us. You could go in, press play, and then go out and have lunch and just have it be playing all while you're at lunch, which would be idiotic. But we can tell whether you're on the call or not. Then we can tell if you're not on the call whether you went back and viewed the call. That's how we know. Now, to this point, I haven't been all that, hey, do it or don't do it, that's fine. It's yours. I mean, I don't know why you came on the system if you don't want to follow it and take all the coaching you get. But going forward with this marketing, the people who do it right are going to make ungodly amounts of money. And so those are the people we're going to focus on. People who are not doing the system. And here's the problem I have with it. People who aren't doing the system. Who does all the whining and complaining with our system, guys? Who does all the whining and complaining with our system? The guys that are doing the system or the guys that aren't and then bitch about it not working? You're right, Brad. The ones that aren't doing it. So guess what? If you're not doing the system, that's fine. You're not going to do the market. I'm only going to be dealing with people who are following the system. Make sense? Is that fair or unfair, guys? As a coach, and that's why I hope why you came on board was for me to coach you. Is that fair or unfair? So, you know, going forward with this marketing, you have the ability to write unbelievable amounts of business. And for that, now I'm going to hold you accountable to show up to practices, to do the drills, to do it the way I ask you to do it. Because if you don't run the play the way the coach asks you to run the play, what happens? I didn't know that that's the way the play was supposed to be run. He's going to say, you know what, you sit on the bench. As soon as you can figure that out, let me know. So you can think that I'm a jerk, but why am I being a jerk about this, guys? Why am I being a jerk about this? Nobody's answering. So there's lots of reasons why you think that I'm a jerk. Guys, we have 150 guys, but if there's only going to be 30 people that follow the rules, who will I make more money on? Trying to help all 150 guys? Because we already have like 60. We have like, I don't think, about 250 guys on our system. I'm only working with 150. I only take phone calls from 150 of them. And even that 150, for the people who aren't following the system, am I going to make more money working with 30 people following the system and following my coaching, or taking calls from 150 guys, and most of them aren't doing anything? So I'm going to work with the people who are following the system. Make sense? So next week, be on the call. We're going to be rolling that out with all the expectations. And all the expectations I'm not doing, the reason I'm setting these expectations, it's not for me, guys. It's for you. In a sense, it's for me, because the more money you make, the more money I make. But the fact is that, do you think it's easy for me to set expectations? Do you think I like getting on a soapbox? And do you think I would much prefer for 150 guys to be doing what they're supposed to be doing, following the system perfectly, sending in tapes, and us having a great time? Or do you think it's more fun for me to be bitching and moaning all the time? Which is more fun for me? Which one do you guys? If everybody was doing it, it's not a little of both, Jeff. Missy, how exhausted am I, Missy, after these calls when I'm bitching and moaning?
It's very energy sucking.
Guys, I would much prefer for you guys to be following the system, sending in tapes where you're actually trying to do the system, and I'm coaching. I get excited and I get energized by helping you get better at the system. But when you're not doing the system, when I'm having to yell at you and nag, it's very emotionally draining. And so I want to put all of my energy and all of my focus and all of my interest is in people who are actually going to be following the system going forward here. And those are the people that we're going to will make more money than all the other guys combined. So please, either be on board or off board, and that's going to determine how much help you get from me. It's not how much help from you get ECA. ECA will work with you regardless. But I tell you straight out, I'm not going to be working with you unless you're paying attention to what you need to be doing. Make sense? Okay, so we're going to jump into the tape review now. We did not finish. We're going to start right at the power of attorney section.
All right, so we will keep moving. All right, the next thing we want to talk about is the fact that you guys need to consider possibly looking at getting, we're talking here about the financial power of attorney, all right? Why does that document, think about a power of attorney, why is that document important? What value does that document bring?
Well, I went and talked to our bankers.
Okay.
And then I talked to the bankers. And I asked them now, say if Omer was in a coma, I said, can I come in here and draw money out of his IRA? And one said, absolutely no. You have to have that power. Financial, she said, make sure it's a financial.
Yeah, a lot of people do get that, the medical and the fine, two completely.
Well, then I went over because...
So what could he have done? It's not that he did anything wrong, but what could he have done better there? Did this lady answer what a power of attorney is for well? Yeah, Craig. Extremely well. That's right, Cheryl. Empower. He should have empowered. She's a genius, right, John? She's a genius. So if she's a genius, I'm going to tell her she's a genius. She actually not only answered the crib note number 1, she answered crib note number 2. So when somebody makes my point for me, I'm going to empower them. I'm going to tell them they're above average because they are above average. That's awesome. She combined, without him doing anything, crib note number 1 and crib note number 2. That was awesome. He should have empowered her and told her she was above average. Yeah, that's the best answer I've ever heard too, Michael. So he didn't do anything wrong. He just missed an opportunity to really, and think about this. Why, when somebody makes a point for me, why do I want to tell them they're above average? When somebody makes a point that I want to make for me, why do I want to tell them they're above average? Because I'm putting that point in concrete, never to be visited again, plus making them feel great about themselves.
Because we got money in 2 different banks, and so I went over to the other banker, and he said, knowing you, he said, I give you whatever you need.
Well, he probably worked out as long as that guy was still there.
Yeah.
What did he just do there? So she was saying, my banker said, knowing you, I would give you the money whenever you need it. And then what did the advisor say? As long as that banker's there. So what is that? Is that a good thing or a bad thing? What did he do, guys? Not good, Kevin. Why? Why, Mike? Bad. Right. Why? Right, Bonnie. Bad thing. Why? What did he do wrong? He corrected her, Michael. Exactly. He corrected her, Bonnie. You don't want to correct them. So you'd say, yeah, that's awesome because that tells me a lot about your relationship with your banker and that, he's there to help you and because he knows you, he trusts you, you've got a great relationship. That's awesome when he's there. That's awesome. And when he's not there and when he retires and when he moves on to a different bank, what's going to happen? Then I'm just going to tell them that they're right, tell them that they're awesome, and then I'm going to ask them the question that needs to be asked, which is that really how it works, though? Does that make sense? You do not want to correct it. But this guy's laughing or whatever, so it doesn't really feel consciously like he corrected him. But believe me, it is happening subconsciously that they realize that he corrected him.
That's right.
So,
And you know what? Actually, the fact that you did that, I'm impressed. I mean, that's the fact you went and checked it out because.
So now he's getting on their side. He knows that he corrected him. So now he's trying to go back, and that's the great thing here, is we all make mistakes, but he didn't just let it lie there. He knew he made a mistake. He's going to go back and give him a pat on the back. See, he's going to empower them. He said, the fact that you went back and did this, kudos to you. So we all make mistakes, but when you realize you made a mistake, you got to go back and correct it. And the best way to correct it, empower. Does anybody not get what I mean by empower? If anybody doesn't get what I mean by empower, just say, we'll put a question mark in the question box. Okay, looks like everybody gets it. Good.
A lot of times, it really varies from company to company as to what they require.
Well, that's what you mentioned when we were in here, so I had to go in.
Okay, so he's telling them a lot of companies, it varies from company to company whether they're going to honor your power of attorney or not. What's wrong with that? Or is that right? Telling, selling, preaching, and teaching. Yeah, he's telling. That's right, guys. See, if I say that companies aren't going to honor this, should they believe me? No, they shouldn't believe me. Why? Do you get that, guys? Anything that comes out of my mouth is suspect because I have an agenda. I want to become their advisor. No, I don't. I want to be paid a commission. That's what they think in their head. I don't care how much I want to help somebody because I want to help everybody. That's not what they look at me as somebody being helpful. They look at me as somebody who wants to make a commission. So any point worth making must be made by who? The client. Must be made by them. So if I want to make the point that other entities are not going to honor their power of attorney when I'm in at 21. Now in an event I have to tell them that, but in the 21 I can't say that. They have to say that.
I'm proud of you for doing that. That's awesome.
Well, I'm just going to ask, well, could I?
What's really funny is the fact that you got both ends of the spectrum, and both of them are pretty much local banks that you're dealing with, right? We're talking First Citizens and CLB&T, right? Can I ask which one said yes and which one said no?
Clearly said absolutely no.
Really? No, I would have guessed it maybe the other way around. Really? Wow.
We're better known than Clearway.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's why I kind of thought. It's like, I'm surprised. If you would have asked me to guess, I would.
No, Clearly said absolutely no.
She impresses me too once in a while.
No, I'm impressed the fact that she actually went and asked it.
Well, Brenda, she worked at, it was Northwest Bank when she was working, and now it's Wells Fargo. But she worked there for.
Oh, I did not know that.
Oh, yeah.
Really?
She was quite a few people under her.
Really?
Yeah.
Here at the one Mason City?
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Well,
You might not recall this. This is their daughter that works at a bank that they're talking about.
Well, she worked at the one in Des Moines, and then she figured if this was going any place with her and I, then somebody was going to have to move and change jobs. And there was an opening in Mason City, so she moved to Mason City now.
Okay.
But actually, she got
I did not realize she had been involved in the banking, so that's the first I've heard that.
Yeah, she was in that for a few years. Well, anyway, I don't know, we got to talking and something about loans, and she said, you haven't worked for years, you have no credit. She said, there is no way would a bank give you a loan. So I thought, So I walked in the bank.
I want to find out about it.
And I said, I need $10,000.
So this meeting actually goes 3 hours. Why is it going to go 3 hours? And he got the deal. I mean, he got the deal without a problem whatsoever. But why do you think it's going to go 3 hours? Yeah, they're having a good time, Brad. Exactly right. They're having a good time. And at the end of the 3 hours, guess what? That's right, John. They're having fun. At the end of 3 hours, they are just the same because it's like they've been at a party the whole time. So I'm not endorsing this, but what my point is, it doesn't matter how long the meeting is as long as the client's interested throughout the whole meeting. So does this sound like he's interrogating them, or they're just having a good old time and having a back and forth? It's a good time, right, Bert? So here's the thing. He's asking tons of questions, but they do not suspect that he's asking them lots of questions.
That sounds like a good number.
Yeah, just see what happens.
And I said, 4 months. He said, no problem. Where do you want to put it? I said, in my checking account. So sat in my checking account and I went back in.
And then when I told Brenda, I can't do it.
Well, I got the loan. I said, well, here's my favorite. She I don't believe.
That whole thing has changed so dramatically from what it used to be, the whole loan thing. I remember when our girls turned 16, I mean, they had
Okay, this is the problem. Was she pretty proud of the fact that she went, her daughter told her she couldn't get a loan, then she went and got a loan? Was she pretty proud of that? Yeah, she was really proud of that, right, John? And then what's this guy going to do? He's saying, well, those things have changed. Here, let me give you a personal example of what happened to me and my family. No. First of all, should we ever say, hey, let me give you an example of what happened to me and my family? Ever. What pronouns should we not be using in this meeting? Don't tell stories about yourself. There's stories in there, and I mentioned that these things happen to me, but I'm using them as teaching stories. I never get off script. I never bring up another story about myself, because do they really care about you and what happened to you? No. So it should all be about them, and I do use I, me when I'm using one of the stories that we use for teaching. But that's it. And most of those stories did not even happen. I'm using them as teaching stories. Don't ever bring up real things that happen to you, because that's a slippery slope. You bring up one of those, and guess what? You're going to bring up more. And they're going to be polite and listen. They're in your home. They're in front of you. They're nice people. They're going to listen to you, but they're not really that interested. You know why? You're not interested in them, and you can make money off of them. And you're not interested in them. You can't wait to tell your own story. And this guy here, Bob, is an awesome guy. He's not like that, but we're all like that. So as soon as he gets a chance to tell his own story, what's he do? Tells his own story.
part-time job. You know, it's like, I'm gonna buy a car. Like, yeah. Okay. They did. Both of them did. Bought brand new cars. All they had was part-time jobs working at Fairway in Clear Lake. And it's like, wow, life has changed, because I had about.
So what does that have to do with anything? The fact that his kids went out and got cars, loans for their cars. How does that have to do with anything? That's right. Michael brings up 5 Q stories have questions intertwined in between them to make a point. Our stories are not making points. You're exactly right, Mike.
I'll give up. I mean, I think my dad had to sign. I don't know.
See, all this, and see, when you add your own stories, does that add clutter to the whole meeting? And if it adds clutter, what does it do to your messages? It gets diluted. There's so much information there, it gets diluted. So don't do that. The only stories you should be telling are the ones that are infused into the actual scripts.
That's like, yeah, things have changed. Well, then, so you.
Were they laughing at his story? Did they even care about his story, guys? There was a huge silence there after he got done. He thought it was interesting. Guess what they thought? Okay.
You understand, then, so the document allows me to do what? Because you
back into doing what he's supposed to be doing.
You already have.
It will allow me to get some money out of his account.
That's right. That's exactly right. And when that power of attorney, because he made the comment about the fact, well, hopefully that guy's not on vacation for 2 weeks. Because most of the time when a power of attorney comes into play, is it because life is going wonderful and great, or has something happened?
Well, a friend of mine now, her husband passed away last fall, and they thought they had everything in line before he passed away.
Okay.
And they were knowing that his life.
Okay, so she's getting a little confused here because she thinks the power of attorney is for when you what? She's bringing up her story. Yeah, when you die. Now he's doing a great thing. Did he immediately jump in and correct her, or is he going to listen to her, listen to her out? What am I thinking? Hear her out. That's what I'm thinking. Hear her out, and then let's see how he deals with it afterwards.
It was really short.
Okay.
And one thing that they forgot to do was the financial. So she couldn't touch any of his money.
After he was gone?
After he was gone. She could not touch it until it went through court.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay, now that makes, because I'm thinking, wait a minute, when he's gone, the power, that's a whole different animal.
So now what do you just do? What do you do, guys? He corrected her, right, Carlos? Corrected her. And now remember, our technique that when somebody gives us the wrong answer, we tell them why they're right and why I believe that too. So what I would say is, yeah, that's absolutely right, because you know, when somebody's gone, you know, we need a legal document, a legal process to get us access to the money. So you bring up an awesome point, Agnes. You bring up an awesome point, because if we don't have our legal affairs in order and something happens, it's too late, and then we have to go through the whole process. So when we die, you're right. We need a will. You're absolutely right. We need a will to access that money. And then we have the same legal process when we're alive. And remember, we just talked about that. When would we use that? You know, what document would we use there? So did I correct her, or did I tell her she was right? I told her she was right when it came to death and all of that. And then when I transitioned into while you're still alive, did I use the word but, or did I use the word and? If I use the word but, we're just wired for but means I did something wrong. So you just use and to transition.
But that's because of the whole probate.
Oh, and I stopped it right before you used what word? But. Did you catch that? I'm going to replay it a little bit. Shoot. I think I screwed it all up here.
Line before he passed away.
Okay.
And they were knowing that his life was really short.
Okay.
And one thing that they forgot to do was the financial. So she couldn't touch any of his money.
After he was gone?
After he was gone. She could not touch it until it went through court.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay, now that makes, because I'm thinking, wait a minute, when he's gone, that's a whole different animal. But that's because of the whole probate thing is what, and they didn't have that.
So she would call, and she called. She told this guy, she said, this is ridiculous. It's taken this many months, she said, for me to get any money out of the account. She couldn't get any money out of the account.
Not while it's in the probate,
it was sealed. And she said, I don't even have enough money to go buy a roll of toilet paper.
Wow.
She did.
Yeah, but
still, you know,
cause and effect, right?
And of course, her language isn't very good.
Oh, okay. Add a little flowery stuff in there too.
So then I thought, oh, okay, we better make sure that.
So she's still going down the wrong path. If he would have jumped in like I demonstrated there, would she still be going down the wrong path? No. Would she still be happy? Yes. But now she's solidifying her answer, and the longer she goes on, the easier, the more difficult it is going to be to correct her. The more she makes her case, is going to be easier or harder to correct her. And when you correct her, Craig, is she going to feel more or less ridiculous when you finally correct her? If I go on and on and on and on and on and on about how great the Vikings are, and then you correct me, I'm going to feel like an idiot. If I only go on for 30 seconds and you correct me, I'm like, oh, well, I guess you have a point there. It's easier for me to get out. So, but the one thing he is doing is he's listening. He's not jumping in, trying to correct her immediately, but at least he's doing that. But he could have been doing something better, which he could have jumped in, fell on the sword, said, that's exactly right, that's what I thought, and then transitioned to getting her straightened around. But instead, she's digging herself a bigger hole, so he's going to have to help her out of that. It's going to be harder to help her out of that hole. Let's see how he does.
And that's good. I'm glad you bring that up. Now that's different. And actually, the little analogy that I use will kind of help to clarify that. Okay. So let's say that I'm walking across the street out here, step off the curb, and I get hit by.
So guess what he's going to do? He's going to say, you know what? I'm going to just walk away from this story, pretend it didn't exist, and go right into the bus story. I don't think that's a bad. I think he's thinking I don't have the skills right now to do what I need to do with that story. So instead, what I'm going to try to do is just go right into the bus story and see if I can't get this matter straightened out easily. Let's see how he does in the bus story.
There's one of the outcomes that are going to come into play. Okay. First of all, it's my lucky day. I just get knocked down, get bruised up a little bit, but I'm able to get up, go on about my day. I might be a little aggravated with the driver, maybe myself for not looking. But do I need any financial or legal documents to go on with my life at that point? If I get up and
No, that,
why not?
well, because you can go.
I'm okay, right? No, you got the right answer. You thought I was pulling a trick question, I could see. No trick questions here. The other extreme is that I'm killed. All right, I'm splattered all over the street. You know, now Martha and the girls have some final things to put, and now what legal document's going to come into play? We just talked about it a few minutes ago that you guys already have. What documents going to come into play?
Well, your will
Yeah.
would be the first thing.
Yep, my will.
Taken care of.
Yep. The third option, the third thing that could happen is I'm seriously injured, I'm laid up in the hospital, I'm unconscious, I'm unable to function, you know, and Martha gets the call that, you know, we all hope that we never get, you know, that, hey, he's been in a serious accident, he's hurt, you need to get up here. And she walks into that room and she says something to me and I don't respond, you know, all the only noise that's going on is noise of different monitors and stuff. As she's standing there observing that scene, what kind of things are going to begin to come to mind for her?
Oh my.
You made a huge mistake. What was the huge mistake? The purpose of the bus story is to what? Make sure she gets the difference between when you use a will and when you use the power of attorney. So she's totally confused with when you use the power of attorney. He had the chance to fix it. He missed the third bus story. The third bus story is what? I'm hit by the bus. I'm incapacitated. Now what legal document do I need? That's right, Michael. Now what need? So he had a chance to fix it, and instead he moved on to the story, and now she's still confused about when to use the power of attorney. But do you get the reason we need that bus story? How many people get confused between wills and power of attorney? Most. They do. So the purpose of the bus story is, hey, I'm hit by the bus, get up, brush myself off, no harm, no foul, go on my way. I don't need any legal documents there, do I? Now, if I get hit by the bus and I die, I'm up at the pearly gates, then what legal document does my family need to take care of my affairs in court, in probate? Well, a will, exactly. Now, what happens if it's somewhere in between? If I get hit by a bus and I'm incapacitated, then I don't need a will. Instead, I need what kind of legal document? Do you notice how I'm asking leading questions, teeing it up for them to make their answer extremely easy? So if I'm incapacitated and can't make my own decisions, then I need a legal document. It's not, or my family needs a legal document. It's not a will, it's a what? See, I've actually removed that will to make their answer very easy, a power of attorney. Then they get the difference. Does that make sense to everybody? So do these kind of tape reviews where we're listening to other people, does that help? Do you get little helpful things that you can see in there? Super. Good. Well, everybody be on the call next Monday, and the guys that aren't on the call, and you're listening to this replay, you make sure you're on the call next Monday. I appreciate all you guys more than you would know. But I really appreciate you guys that are actually following the system and are on these calls and doing everything they can to make their practice more profitable. Those are the guys that are really fun to work with. So I really appreciate you guys. So you guys have a great rest of the week. We'll talk to you all on Friday. Thanks, everybody.